Hello everyone, this will be one of those boring videos, but if you do consider yourself a responsible person, then better listen to the very end. Have you heard the news recently stating, and I quote, "The Fed goes all in with unlimited bond buying plan," or simply, "No limit on Fed money injections"? The Fed is buying US debt indefinitely to stop drops on the market in order to prevent the mass bankruptcy of businesses and few corporations in the United States by printing more money out of thin air. I won't be using any fancy vocabulary or numbers. I will provide you with a simplified summary of situation and its possible outcomes. So beyond the made-up terminology and noble-sounding support program, which is necessary by the way, for the US economy, what does it realistically mean? Trump and the Fed have made a decision to double the current debt of the United States. The plan of the US government looks as follows. First, we will stop the drops on the market. Then we will heal the US economy. The plan is completely irresponsible because yes, they will temporarily stop the drops on the market, but it will backfire hard because the US dollar is being sacrificed in the process to the point where it will not be able to regain its position on the world market, which means the value of the US dollar will be dropping, and the position of the petrodollar will be taken over by one of many possible alternatives, which are being proposed mostly from Asia. But more about that in a moment. The United States will start to turn into a banana republic, another Zimbabwe, and when the crisis will peak, we will be dealing with the worldwide panic because the US dollar cannot be replaced as the resource trade currency without crushing world finances, but not financial institutions. So what are the real objectives behind this move of the international ruling elite? Isn't this a strike at their international finances banking system, which they used to enslave our countries with the endless debt? No, it's not. As a matter of fact, everything is going according to their plans, and I spoke about this in my old videos, just as they used any possible crisis in the past to gain new rights and privileges, as well as pushing their new oppressive reforms upon our Western nations. For them, the USA is just one of many pawns under their control. They know the current system is functioning on a credit, and it cannot remain this way forever. I spoke about this in my old videos from 1 year ago. So they want to perform a controlled demolition of sorts, leading the system to a big reset, of which they will use to create a new, more oppressive and restrictive system. They want to give more power to the governance that they already control. They want to take even more rights away from the citizens by turning our countries into police states. They want to introduce a cashless currency system. And they want to give more rights and privileges to the major international corporations and banks. Or more generally, they want to completely enslave the regular people and all our Western countries. Yes, with the death of the US dollar, the current world financial system will collapse, but financial institutions will survive, and they will introduce a digital currency, which will evolve into a global currency with time. In the past, the international banksters always pushed their agenda further and further through government laws and regulations, which would never be accepted by average people in times of peace and stability. The coronavirus gave them the crisis they were looking for, where they can restrict our freedom, improve and justify their monitoring over citizens, and introduce the necessary reforms that we witness in most of our Western countries today. The crisis with the virus is a perfect excuse for the banking cartel to justify the means which they have applied. So, what does it mean for us, our regular people? After some months, maybe a year, the price of products and services will start rising very fast, and nothing will be able to stop this process anymore. A catastrophe in a purest form. The main reason behind this program in the US is to stop drops on the market, which is buying a wealthy people some extra time to make proper preparations. But in the end, it leads to a scenario much alike to the one described above. Also, the bankruptcy of many businesses in the US is only delayed in time. So as I said, by Fed and the US government is doing now, is just about buying time, much like a deer sprinting after being shot by a hunter. So what should you do as a regular person who knows about all of this? Is to prepare yourself adequately for a worsening of the situation in your country for months and years to follow. Because there is a crisis coming which our world has not yet faced in the history. A depression similar to the one in the 1930s in the 20th century. Or perhaps even worse than that. If you have any debts to any financial institutions, I urge you to pay them back as soon as possible. If you have anyone to ask for help, do that, but make sure to get rid of any debt you own to the banks and other financial institutions before inflation drastically increases. Also, if you have cash savings, invest into real assets, something that will be of real value or is simply practical for use for in times of crisis. Do not keep your savings in US dollar. Get rid of the dollars as soon as possible and slowly start withdrawing your money from the banks. Do not hold it in the bank, or you may lose access to your bank account, along with any possibility of withdrawing. Or your money in that bank account might be taken away from you, especially if you are in Europe. Mass withdrawal of money from banks might be forbidden in times of crisis, especially if the situation gets worse and the banks want people to keep their money in their banks. Also, please notice that the Trump administration has advised people to do exactly what the banks want. The US government has decided to help the banks and major corporations in exchange for a collapse of the US dollar and destruction of the middle class. And there is really no way out for the US government from the current situation going forward. The decisions were already made and the fate of the US dollar is sealed. A controlled demolition, so to speak, which I spoke about in my videos, has already begun. In the most positive scenario that I can foresee, the US has around 2 years, but most likely less than a year. We shall see more in the following months, because the situation may drastically change, of course. The world is really heading into a global recession, or maybe even a depression, and there is nothing that we can do to stop it. Please note that I cannot be absolutely sure of how fast everything will start going to hell. My goal is not to pretend to be some Nostradamus. However, we can still prepare for it as soon as we are able. It's always better to be safe than sorry. So I do remind everyone that cares about preserving their wealth, savings, that I want to remind everyone that we hold a realistic solution in form of a plan for a new economic bloc, which might allow us to function normally, secured in case of inflation and crisis around the world, but under one condition. We must organize everything on time according to the plan presented in our videos, and we must cooperate and stand together to go through those difficult times, prepared. Otherwise, we will end up alone, at the mercy of the system and those who rule it today. Without sufficient number of people organized around the realization of this operation, united, we are not going to make it. Unfortunately for us, the situation changed a lot sooner than expected, and we haven't even started developing the Polstrat or TradeStrat platform. We haven't even assembled sufficient numbers of supporters for this operation so far. I have some strategic decisions to make, and we will improvise with what we got. I was really not expecting the situation to turn so dire so quickly. We will continue with the plan, but we will also be forced to introduce adequate measures to speed up the realization of objectives 2 and 3. We will try to work over all 3 objectives at once, in the same time, using what we have and accepting all the help we can get. I wanted to organize everything in order and officially, but there is really no time left to play this game and be polite, kind, appealing to reason of people. There is really no time. So no matter what I propose we do in upcoming videos, please show understanding. We really must improvise with what we have with regards to the realization of those 3 objectives from the plan, or we are not going to make it in time. Before those new restrictions of our lifestyle are applied, and before inflation hits our economy with full strength. From the other information which you also should be aware of, there is also an invisible war between Russia and Saudi Arabia, which adds to the US economic problems, because we have overproduction of oil, which is also flooding the market, and the oil prices have dropped away below 50%, which means that almost all companies that specialize in oil production and trade now operate in deficit because of oil prices are way too low compared to the production and distribution costs. And the US is the world's top oil producer, which means it will backfire hard against with the US budget. Add to this the panic, trade and service restrictions created because of coronavirus outbreak, which also drastically speed up the growth of world economic crisis, especially in the US, a country which specializes in providing services to the rest of the world. The US is in recession, and there is no real solution on the horizon. The main problem which we should all be concerned about in first and foremost is the US economy and the unavoidable open road to a new but painful reset, which will take place no matter what. The question is when. And what system will be introduced for us after this takes place. And regarding the possibility of removing cash from circulation, the US dollar is to become a worthless currency. Various replacements for it in digital form are being developed or prepared and set on hold. In the USA, there is a concept of the digital dollar. There is also Libra from Facebook. In China, they are making a digital yuan and other projects, mostly from the initiative of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which already allows China, Russia and few other countries to trade resources, oil, bypassing the petrodollar. One of those will triumph in the future, especially if we do not succeed with our operation, which I present in our video series called Madness in the Western World and an Introduction to a Realistic Solution, which is linked in the video description below, by the way. If you want to know exactly what will be going through in Europe and North America with regards to financial reforms, look at the past 8 years in Japan. Bank of Japan is a testing ground for all the financial policies experimentation which will be introduced, especially within European countries. In America, the process will look a bit different. I am always trying to monitor the economic situation across the globe to make sure that nothing will surprise me when it comes to the realization of this plan that we present in our videos. A small tip here. I have reasons to suspect that Bitcoin is a part of the new system, but I cannot prove it. So please take that into consideration while making any investment into cryptocurrencies. Also, based on the situation, don't be surprised if there is a new anti-Iranian provocation which leads the US into an open conflict with Iran. Usually a war is a good solution to handle any economic crisis, so take that into consideration as well, especially since our international ruling elite wants this war to occur. From the perspective of our sick international ruling elite, everything is going according to plan. They are winning and we are losing. The governance will grow bigger. The international corporations will become more wealthy and will gain more rights and privileges. The new financial system will be introduced in the near future. Obviously, in the upcoming world economic crisis, the middle class will lose most of their savings. The working class will suffer badly. It will lead to riots on the streets across all of the West, and not only that. Acts of terror attacks will escalate, and new security measures will then be justified, related to disarming the population even more and introducing even more of a police state in general in all our Western countries with time. Every crisis is used to rob people of their savings. From the business sphere, small and medium business owners will also suffer the most. This crisis is here to destroy small and medium business owners, while huge corporations will survive and dominate the market. And there is nothing what can be done to prevent this from happening. As it stands today, the plan which I explain in my videos is the only realistic solution to save our future, and the future of the West in general. I wish only that more people would hear about us and what we are trying to organize here. We are losing precious time and we still lack outreach, so please help in every possible way you can. Study the material in the plan and help us inform people of what we are trying to build here for the sake of our future. keep monitoring our channel and await further announcements. Thank you for staying with me to the end.